The wind whispers secrets through the salt-stunted cypress trees, a sound like dry paper tearing. It carries the scent of low tide and something else, something sweet and cloying, like flowers left to rot on a forgotten grave. Moonlight, thin and silver as a new coin, spills over the crooked tombstones, turning the bone-white coral markers into a field of broken teeth. Nothing here is straight. The ground, a lumpy quilt of sand and coquina stone, seems to breathe with the rhythm of the waves crashing softly on the shore, just beyond the crumbling wall. This is a place where endings are stacked one on top of the other, but tonight it feels suspiciously like a beginning. It's in places exactly like this, forgotten and draped in shadow, that the real stories of the age are written. Tonight we're following one such story, about an assassin forced to trade in sugar and rum, a deal that will draw an unwanted and perhaps fatal kind of attention. It's so easy to romanticize this era, to imagine adventure and freedom on the high seas. But the simple, often brutal reality is that survival usually meant making deals in the dark and trusting people you absolutely shouldn't. And honestly, you probably won't make it through this one. So hi everyone, and welcome back. Before you get too comfortable in this particular moonlit boneyard, maybe take a quiet moment to like the video and subscribe. But really, only if this is your kind of thing. It helps more than you know. I'd love to see where you're all listening from tonight, and what time it is for you in your corner of the world. Go ahead and dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft, gentle hum in the background, and let's just ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the graveyard, and the air is so thick with the smell of salt and decay you can almost taste it. It's a familiar perfume to you, the scent of endings. As Camille Marchand, you've presided over more than your fair share. But tonight is different. Tonight, you're not an assassin. You're just a merchant, a purveyor of stolen goods, and the weight of the sacks at your feet feels heavier than any sin you've carried before. This is a means to an end, a quiet, undignified transaction that will hopefully buy you passage away from this humid little island and the ghosts that haunt its shores. Before you, nestled in the deep shadow of a tilting mausoleum shaped like a ship's prow, is the clandestine meeting you've arranged. Your rendezvous is with a fence known only by his given name, Tom Morgan. He's your cousin, third or fourth. The relation is thin enough to be deniable, a fact that brings you no comfort whatsoever. Family is a liability you shed years ago, but on an island this small, you take the connections you can get. You shift your weight, the soft leather of your boots making no sound on the sandy path. Patience is your oldest friend, your most honed tool. You can outweight statues. You watch the entrance to the mausoleum, a maw of absolute blackness. He'll come. Tom is, if nothing else, a perfectionist. He wouldn't be late. It would offend his sense of order. As if summoned by the thought, a figure detaches from the darkness. He's a wiry man, all sharp angles and quick, bird-like movements. Even in the gloom, you can see the obsessive neatness of his clothes, the way his dark hair is slicked back from his brow. He is a rope maker by trade, and he approaches his illicit business with the same meticulous care he affords his knots, precise, strong, and with no loose ends. He doesn't greet you. Tom isn't one for pleasantries. He simply nods toward the two large canvas sacks and the smaller crate of rum jugs you've brought. All of it? He whispers, his voice a dry rasp. As agreed, you reply, your own voice low and steady. You prefer the quiet. It's in the silence that you can hear the world's true intentions. Tom kneels. You watch his hands, the hands of a craftsman, as they expertly untie the drawstrings on the sacks. They are surprisingly steady, the fingers long and calloused. He dips a finger into the raw sugar, brings it to his lips, and his eyes close for a fraction of a second. A nod of approval. He moves to the rum, unstopping one of the heavy clay jugs and taking a delicate sniff. Another nod. He is a perfectionist testing the quality of his inventory. This isn't just a deal for him. It's an appraisal of his own judgment in choosing to work with you. He seems satisfied. From a worn leather satchel at his hip, he produces a small, heavy pouch. The muffled clink of coins is the only music in this dead-still theater. He doesn't toss it to you. He places it carefully on the ground, halfway between you, then pushes it forward with two fingers. The count is exact, he says. It's not a promise. It's a statement of fact. You bend, your movements fluid and unhurried, and retrieve the pouch. The weight feels right. You don't bother counting it here. Trust is a fool's game, but showing distrust is a fool's move. You give him a single, curt nod, the only acknowledgement that needs to pass between you. The transaction is complete. Simple. Clean. As you turn to leave, melting back toward the crumbling perimeter wall, a flicker of movement to your left snags your attention. It's near a large, ornate headstone carved with an anchor and chain, about 50 yards away. You freeze. It's not an animal. The stillness is too deliberate, too human. You had scanned the graveyard upon arrival, your senses sweeping over every shadow and stone. It was empty. You're sure of it. Which means whoever this is, they are very, very good. Or you are getting sloppy. Your hand drifts, casually, toward the small, weighted blade strapped to your thigh. You slowly turn your head, letting your eyes adjust to the specific patch of darkness. A man is standing there. He isn't trying to hide, not really. He's just there, part of the scenery. He's tall, lean, and even from this distance, you can perceive a kind of rigid posture, a straight-back stillness that speaks of military discipline. He's looking directly at you. A cold trickle of unease, unwelcome and unfamiliar, slides down your spine. This is Caleb Steele. You don't know his name, not yet, but you know his face. You've seen him before. In the market, watching the merchants with a severe, calculating expression. On the docks, his gaze fixed on the rigging of the ships, a look of profound longing and bitterness on his face. He's a deserter from the Royal Navy. It's a poorly kept secret on this island of whispers. A man who supposedly fled his post because he couldn't stomach the casual cruelty of his superiors. An honest man, they say. A man of principle. And a man of principle is the last person you want to see at a midnight sale of stolen goods. His gaze is unnerving. It's not the leering stare of a common thug, or the hungry look of a rival. It's analytical. It's the gaze of a perfectionist sizing up a problem. He's watching you the way Tom watched the sugar, assessing your quality, your value, your flaws. You realize with a jolt that this isn't the first time he's been this close. You felt eyes on you for the past week, a subtle pressure at the back of your neck you dismissed as paranoia, a consequence of your own tightly wound nature. But it wasn't. It was him. He's been watching you, studying you. Tom has already vanished back into the mausoleum, the consummate professional leaving no trace. You are alone in the moonlight with your bag of coins and this silent, watchful sentinel. He makes no move toward you, no sound. He just stands there, a living statue of judgment amidst the dead. The graveyard, which only moments ago felt like a sanctuary of solitude, now feels like an open-air cage. You clutch the coin pouch, the metal suddenly cold against your palm, and begin your slow, deliberate walk toward the gate, every nerve ending screaming. You don't look back, but you don't have to. You can feel his honest, unwavering gaze fixed on your back, a silent question you have no intention of answering. Each step you take toward the lich gate is a deliberate act of will. The gravel crunches under your boots, a sound that feels obscenely loud in the sudden, oppressive silence. The pouch of coins in your hand is a cold, dense weight, a magnet for trouble you can feel pulling at you from 50 yards away. You don't quicken your pace. To run is to admit fear, and to admit fear is to offer a weapon to your enemy. You keep your stride even, your shoulders relaxed, your head held high, projecting an aura of someone who belongs exactly where they are, doing exactly what they're doing. You are just a person leaving a graveyard, nothing more. You're almost to the ancient, salt-warped wooden gate when he moves. It's not a sudden lunge, but a fluid, economical motion. He detaches from the anchor-carved headstone and crosses the distance between you with a ground-eating stride that is utterly silent. He doesn't run. He glides, a phantom of discipline and purpose. He intercepts you at the gate, blocking your exit not by standing in your way, but by simply being there, a tall, unmovable object. Up close, you can see the details the moonlight had previously blurred. His face is lean, carved from hard angles, with a jaw that looks perpetually clenched. His eyes, a startlingly pale blue, are clear and direct. There is no malice in them, which is somehow more terrifying. There is only conviction. He's wearing the simple, durable clothes of a laborer, but they can't disguise the rigid set of his shoulders, or the way he holds himself. A man forged in the unyielding crucible of a Navy quarterdeck. "That doesn't belong to you," he says. His voice is a low baritone, calm and devoid of accusation. It's a simple statement of fact, like remarking on the phase of the moon. You stop, leaving a careful 5 feet between you. Your own voice, when you answer, is a quiet murmur, barely disturbing the air. "I don't know what you mean." Quote, a flicker of something, disappointment perhaps, crosses his features. The sugar, the rum. It was taken from the Sea Serpent 2 nights ago. The ship's master reported it stolen. He doesn't look at the coin pouch in your hand, but you feel its weight increase, as if his knowledge has made the metal itself denser. He's a decent man. He pays his dock fees, treats his crew fairly. He doesn't deserve to be robbed by scavengers. Quote, his honesty is a physical force, pressing in on you. It's a language you understand but no longer speak. You've killed men for far less than this, for a sideways glance or a whispered threat. But this man isn't threatening you. He's appealing to a sense of justice you'd buried long ago. "This is a city of scavengers," you reply, your gaze steady. "We all take what we need to survive." Quote, there's a difference between need and greed, Caleb Steele says, his pale eyes unwavering. At a line between survival and preying on your own, "Give me the coin. I'll see that it's returned." Quote, a tense, silent negotiation hangs in the air between you. Fight, flee, or negotiate. A fight here is foolish. He's disciplined, strong, and you have no idea of his skill, only that he carries himself with the confidence of a man who knows how to handle violence. Besides, a brawl in a graveyard would draw the one thing you cannot afford: attention. Negotiating seems pointless. His rigid morality is a wall you cannot talk your way through. That leaves flight, but not a panicked scramble. A professional exit. You allow a small, weary sigh to escape your lips, a subtle shift in your posture to suggest resignation. You look down at the pouch in your hand, then back up at him. "And if I do?" you ask, your voice soft, conceding. "You'll just let me walk away?" Quote, "I'm not the watch," he says. "My interest is in seeing a wrong righted, nothing more." You nod slowly, as if considering it. You take a half step forward, extending the hand with the pouch. "Fine," you say. You have a misplaced sense of honor, but it's a tiresome thing to argue with. Quote, his eyes remain locked on yours, searching for deceit. He is a perfectionist, and he is trying to see the flaw in your performance. As his focus narrows, his own hand starting to lift to accept the pouch, you act. Your other hand, the free one, drops to the crumbling coquina stone wall beside the gate. Your fingers close around a loose, fist-sized chunk of rock and coral. In one fluid, unbroken motion, you don't throw it at him. You hurl it sideways, deep into the graveyard, against the brittle, sun-bleached panels of a large, hollow-sounding tomb 20 yards away. The crack of the impact is shockingly loud, a gunshot in the stillness. It's followed by the splintering clatter of ancient wood and stone. Caleb's reaction is instantaneous, a testament to his training. His head whips toward the sound, his body tensing for an unseen attacker. It's a single second of instinct overriding intellect. It's all you need. You don't run through the gate. You would expect that. Instead, you pivot, using the low wall as a vault. You launch yourself over it, landing silently in the soft sand on the other side, outside the graveyard's formal boundary. The coin pouch is tucked securely into your belt. By the time Caleb realizes his mistake, his gaze snapping back to find you gone, you are already melting into the deeper shadows of the narrow alley that runs behind the cemetery. His pursuit is immediate. You hear the crunch of his boots on the gravel as he comes through the gate, and then the thud as he too vaults the wall. The race is on. This is your city, a labyrinth of your own making. The main thoroughfares are for merchants and marines. The true pathways are the veins of darkness that spiderweb between them. You dive down a passage no wider than your shoulders, the rough bricks scraping at your sleeves. The air grows thick with the smell of stale beer and boiled cabbage from the tenements stacked precariously on either side. He is relentless. You risk a glance over your shoulder and see his silhouette, a dark shape moving with unnerving speed and confidence. He doesn't shout, doesn't make a sound. He just comes, a silent, disciplined hunter. You are faster in the tight spaces, more fluid, but he has stamina and a single-minded focus that feels like a physical weight on your back. You burst out of the alley and onto a slightly wider, slickly cobbled street lit by a single, sputtering oil lamp. A group of off-duty sailors stumbles out of a doorway, singing a bawdy shanty. You don't slow down. You weave through them like a needle through coarse thread, using their drunken bulk as a momentary obstacle. A curse is thrown at your back, another at Caleb as he shoves past them a moment later with a clipped, "Beg pardon," quote. You know you can't outrun him forever. He is a machine built for endurance. You need to disappear. You need a place so crowded, so chaotic, that one more shadow slipping through the door will go unnoticed. Your mind races, mapping the streets you know as well as the lines on your own hand. 2 blocks down, then a sharp left. The serpent's coil. You force your legs to move faster, your lungs burning with the cold, damp air. You can hear his footsteps behind you. Closer now, steady and rhythmic like a drumbeat counting down your final seconds. You skid around the corner, your boot sliding on a patch of fish guts and grime. There it is. The sign is a carving of a sea serpent biting its own tail, the paint peeling, the wood dark with age and grime. The tavern is less a building and more a scar on the face of the street. Light, thick and yellow as old varnish, spills from the grimy windows, along with a cacophony of noise, shouting, laughter, the off-key screech of a fiddle. You don't hesitate. You pull the door open and plunge into the wall of heat, smoke, and sound, letting the heavy doors swing shut behind you. The noise is a physical blow. The air is a foul cocktail of cheap rum, unwashed bodies, tobacco smoke, and fried fish. The place is packed. Pirates, smugglers, pearl divers, and all the other bottom feeders of this port town are crammed shoulder to shoulder. A one-eyed man with a lurid tattoo covering half his face glares at you as you push past. A woman with hair the color of rust laughs, showing teeth stained black with tar. This is not a place for honest men. It is a sanctuary of sharks. You move deeper into the room, away from the door, your eyes scanning for a defensible position. You find a small, unoccupied table in the deepest, darkest corner. A spot where the shadows cling like damp velvet. The chair faces the entrance, its back to a solid stone wall. You sink into it, pulling your collar up, letting the gloom swallow you. You force your breathing to slow, your heart to stop hammering against your ribs. You are an assassin. Patience is your oldest friend. You flag down a serving girl and order an ale, placing a single small-value coin on the table. You are just another patron, nursing a drink, waiting for no one. You wrap your hand around the cool leather of the coin pouch, still tucked in your belt. It feels different now. Not just the price of passage, but the price of silence. The price of being seen by the wrong man at the wrong time. You lift your gaze to the door, your eyes missing nothing. You watch every person who enters and leaves. You blend in, a predator hiding among other predators. But you know with a cold certainty that crawls over your skin that Caleb Steele is out there. He's standing in the shadows of the street, his pale, honest eyes fixed on this den of thieves. He is a perfectionist. He will not give up. The chase is not over. It has only just been paused. The ale arrives, tasting of rust and bitter hops. You take a slow sip, your eyes never leaving the doorway. Every shadow that shifts, every new figure that stumbles through the threshold, sends a low thrum of adrenaline through your veins. You are a coiled spring, wound tight with a patience that is, at its core, a form of controlled violence. Minutes bleed into one another. An hour passes, marked only by the guttering of the tallow candles and the rising pitch of drunken arguments. You know he is out there. A perfectionist doesn't abandon a flawed equation, he works at it until it's solved. And you, Cammy, are a flaw in his orderly world. Just as you begin to map a new, more desperate route of escape, one involving a climb up the tavern's chimney flue, a figure slides into the chair opposite you. You don't startle. Your body registers the movement, but your training holds you in a state of placid stillness. You had not heard an approach. This person is good, very good. It is not Caleb Steele. The woman across from you smiles, a slow, predatory curve of lips painted a subversive shade of berry red. Her hair is a cascade of dark curls, pinned loosely with what looks like a sharpened piece of bone. She wears a man's waistcoat of faded peacock blue over a loose chemise, and the rings on her fingers catch the flickering light. You know her. Eliza Vane. A grifter, a spy, and a purveyor of secrets, with a reputation as fickle as the tide. The last time you saw her was in a rain-slicked alley, much like the one you just fled. She was cornered, a blade to her throat, her latest con having gone spectacularly wrong. You had a contract on the man holding the knife. You completed it. You left her alive, gasping in the mud, a choice you still couldn't entirely explain to yourself. It was an anomaly, a loose thread in the tapestry of your life. Buying you a drink would be redundant, she says, her voice a low, smoky purr that cuts through the tavern's din. She gestures with a chin toward your half-empty tankard. Besides, you look like you have more pressing concerns. Quote, I'm enjoying the quiet, you lie, your voice flat. Eliza laughs, a rich, genuine sound that is entirely out of place here. Quiet? In the coil? Darling, you're better at lying than that. I've been watching you. You have the look of a fox with a particularly determined hound on its tail. Her dark eyes flick toward the front door. A tall, handsome hound with very honest eyes. Navy, I'd wager. They have a certain rigidity. Quote, so she saw it all. The transaction in the boneyard, the chase. Your carefully constructed solitude has been breached from two sides at once. If you have a point, make it, you say, your hand resting on your thigh inches from your blade. My point, she leans forward, the scent of gin and cloves washing over you, is that you saved my life. I don't like being in debt, it's untidy. That Navy ghost out there won't give up. He's the type to stand in the rain for a week if he thinks it'll make a wrong right. You can't outweight him, and you can't fight him without bringing the whole port watch down on this place, on you. The offer hangs in the air, shimmering and dangerous. Help, from Eliza Vane, a woman who would sell her own grandmother for a map to a hidden treasure. Trust is a currency you don't possess, and you certainly don't trade in it. Yet she is right. Caleb is a problem you can't solve with a knife. He represents order, and a quiet kill would only amplify the chaos he could bring down upon you. What do you want, Eliza? You ask, cutting to the heart of it. I want my debt cleared, she says, her smile unwavering. But her eyes tell a different story. There's a flicker of something else in their depths. Calculation, maybe even a touch of fear. She's in her own trouble, you realize. Or she sees an opportunity. I can get you out of here, and I can get you out of this city. There's a fishing trawler leaving on the morning tide, heading for the Southern Isles. No questions asked. Its captain owes me a favor. A significant one. She pauses, letting the temptation sink in. But we have to move now. Your saintly pursuer is patient, but he's not a fool. He'll be trying to find a back way in as we speak. Quote, you weigh your options. A devil you know versus a zealot you don't. Staying here is a slow death sentence. Fleeing alone is a gamble, with Caleb's relentless stride echoing in your memory. Partnering with Eliza is like clutching a venomous snake for warmth. But it is a kind of warmth. And the price? Quote, just my debt, she repeats, though you both know that's a lie. The real price will be named later. Think of me as a key, Camille. I can open a door for you that is currently locked. Once it's open, we can go our separate ways. Simple. It's not simple. Nothing with her is ever simple, but she is your only move. Show me the door, you say. A triumphant gleam sparks in her eyes. I knew you were the practical type. She stands, her movements fluid and confident. Finish your ale. We don't want to look like we're in a hurry. She turns and saunters toward the back of the tavern, past the bar, disappearing into the press of bodies. You take one last long drink. The bitter ale, a final communion with your solitude. You place the tankard down with a soft click, rise, and follow her into the unknown. She leads you not to a door, but to the tavern's privy, a foul-smelling alcove, curtained by a stained blanket. She slips behind it without a word. You follow, your nose wrinkling at the stench. Inside, she ignores the crude wooden buckets and presses a specific knot on the rough-hewn plank wall. A section no wider than a man's shoulders clicks open, revealing a sliver of utter blackness and a rush of cool, damp air. The serpent's coil has many secrets, she whispers, her silhouette framed against the opening. This one leads to the old cisterns. You slide through after her into a narrow, brick-lined tunnel. The panel clicks shut behind you, plunging you into absolute darkness and muffling the tavern's roar to a distant, ghostly thrum. The air is cold and smells of wet earth and stone. You hear Eliza fumbling for a moment before a spark ignites, and the small, oily flame of a lantern pushes the oppressive blackness back a few feet. It illuminates her face, casting long, dancing shadows that make her look like a conspiratorial phantom. This way, she says, her voice now a businesslike whisper. Stay close. Parts of the floor are rotted through. Quote, the alliance is forged. A partnership of shadows. She moves with a practiced, light-footed grace, her lantern held high. You follow, a silent shade at her back, your senses on high alert. You trust her exactly as far as you can see her, and no further. She is valuable. This tunnel is a testament to that. But as you navigate a particularly treacherous section of walkway, a series of moss-slick planks over a pool of stagnant black water, she missteps. Her ankle twists, and she lets out a sharp, frustrated hiss, stumbling against the tunnel wall. The lantern swings wildly, threatening to extinguish. You catch her arm, your grip firm, steadying her instantly. "Careless," you murmur, your voice devoid of judgment. It is merely an observation. She glares at you, snatching her arm back. Even I make mistakes. Her pride is a flaw, as clear as the recklessness you suspected. It makes her predictable in its own way. Before she can say more, a sound from the tunnel ahead freezes you both. A low scrape of metal on stone, followed by a guttural curse. It's not Caleb. This is something else. Something closer. And far less principled. Eliza extinguishes the lantern with a deft flick of her wrist, plunging you back into the suffocating dark. You press yourself against the cold, damp brick, your breathing slowing to almost nothing. You can hear them now, at least 3 of them, their footsteps heavy and clumsy. They are not trying to be quiet. "Told you I heard something?" A gravelly voice echoes in the tunnel. Sounded like it came from the tavern bolt hole. Quote, "No one uses this route but us," another voice grumbles. "It's probably just rats, big ones." Eliza leans close, her lips brushing your ear. "The wharf rats," she breathes, the name a local curse. "A charming little gang that controls these tunnels. They must have been using the cistern as a hideout." Quote, "This is the complication you knew would come. Your new ally has led you from one cage straight into another. The men are getting closer. You can smell the cheap gin on their breath. You draw your blade from its sheath on your thigh. The honed steel makes no sound. This is your language. Simple, direct. But Eliza has other ideas. You feel her shift beside you, and then hear the soft pop of a cork. A sweet, cloying scent fills the small space. In the gloom, you see her arm move in a slow, deliberate arc. She's not a fighter, not like you. She's a performer. A moment later, a small glass vial arcs through the air, shattering against the far wall of the tunnel, 20 feet in front of the approaching gang. "What in the hells was that?" One of them barks. A thick, purple smoke billows from the point of impact, iridescent and strangely beautiful in the blackness. It doesn't explode. It unfurls, thick and disorienting. It carries the scent of night-blooming jasmine and something acrid, like burnt honey. "It's just smoke, you idiots!" a voice yells, but there's a new note of uncertainty in it. This is your cue. While they are distracted, peering into the unnatural fog, you move. You are a whisper of motion, flowing past Eliza and into the space between the gang and the smoke. You take down the first man from behind, a single, precise motion that severs a nerve at the base of his neck. He crumples without a sound. The second man turns at the muffled thud of his companion's body, his eyes wide. Before his mind can process what he's seeing, you are on him. Your blade is a flicker of cold moonlight that isn't there, and he falls. The third, the leader, finally sees you, a silhouette of death emerging from the darkness. He roars and lunges, a rusty cutlass swinging wildly. You sidestep the clumsy attack, letting his momentum carry him past you. As he stumbles, you drive the pommel of your knife into the back of his knee, buckling his leg. He cries out, crashing to the stone floor. You stand over him, your blade at his throat, and the fight is over. It took less than 5 seconds. Eliza reappears at your side, relighting her lantern. The yellow light illuminates the tableau. 2 bodies, one groaning man at your feet, and you standing motionless above him. She looks from the bodies to you, her eyes wide with a new kind of respect. Or perhaps fear. "I said I was a key," she murmurs, her voice a little shaky. "It seems I've unlocked a monster." Quote, you ignore the comment, nudging the groaning man with your boot. "Is there another way out?" You ask him, your voice a calm, deadly whisper. He whimpers, nodding frantically toward a branch in the tunnel you hadn't seen. You look at Eliza. Her trick with the smoke bomb was a clever distraction. Valuable, but it was also loud and flashy, a performance that nearly got you all killed. Your own methods are quieter, more final. The alliance holds for now, bound by the shared blood on the cistern floor. You gesture with your blade for her to lead the way. The night is far from over, and Caleb Steele is still a patient hunter somewhere in the city above. But now you are no longer just a fox. Now you are two vipers, coiled and ready to strike, slithering deeper into the dark. You shove the whimpering wharf rat aside, leaving him in the dark with his dead companions. You have no time for loose ends that can't run. Eliza, holding the lantern aloft, guides you down the branching tunnel. The air changes, losing the scent of stagnant water and gaining the smell of brine and tarred rope. After another 100 feet, the tunnel ends at a solid-looking wall of stacked stones. Eliza counts 3 stones down and 5 across, then pushes. A section grinds inward, opening into a small, dark space cluttered with barrels. You have emerged into the cellar of a ship's chandlery. The two of you slip out into the pre-dawn gray of Port Royal. The city is stirring. The first cooking fires scent the air, and the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer rings with a promise of the coming day. The streets are still mostly empty, populated by ghosts and stray dogs. Eliza leads you through a maze of alleys with an assured confidence that speaks of years spent navigating the city's hidden veins. She is your key, and for now, the door she has opened leads toward freedom. The trawler won't sail until the tide is high. A few hours yet, she says, her voice low. We need to lay low. I know a place. An abandoned sail loft near the fish market. We can wait there. It feels too simple, but exhaustion is a persuasive argument. Your muscles ache, and the adrenaline from the fight in the cisterns has left a hollow tremor in your hands. You give a curt nod of agreement. The fish market is already coming to life. A chaotic symphony of shouting merchants, the wet slap of fish on wooden stalls, and the overpowering smell of the sea's bounty. The crowd is a shield, a place to be anonymous. You pull your collar higher, sticking close to Eliza as she navigates the throng. She leads you into a tight courtyard behind the market, dominated by a tall, dilapidated building with boarded-up windows. The sail loft. Up here, she says, pointing to a rickety external staircase. It's secure, quote. You follow her up the groaning steps. The air grows thick with the smell of old canvas and dust. She pushes open a heavy door, and you step inside. The loft is a vast, open space, filled with moonlight filtering through grimy, salt-caked upper windows. Bolts of canvas are stacked like pale monoliths, and ancient sail-making tools hang from the walls like instruments of torture. We're safe here, she says, turning to you. Her smile is back, but it doesn't reach her eyes. In the pale light, you see the subtle tension in her jaw, and then you see the flicker of movement behind her, a shadow detaching itself from the deeper gloom near the far wall. It is Caleb Steele. His face is a mask of grim determination. He is not looking at Eliza. His pale, honest eyes are fixed solely on you. The betrayal hits you not like a knife, but like a sudden, sickening drop. It's the feeling of solid ground giving way to open air. She didn't just stumble upon him. She led him here. This was the plan all along. I'm sorry, darling, Eliza says, her voice laced with a theatrical regret. She takes a quick step away from you, toward Caleb. He made me a better offer. With a movement so fast you almost miss it, her hand darts out, not toward a weapon, but toward your belt. Her fingers, nimble and practiced, close around the coin pouch. She snatches it free as you instinctively recoil. The thief and the money, she says, tossing the heavy pouch to Caleb, who catches it without taking his eyes off you. As promised, my slate is clean with the crown. A full pardon. Go, Caleb says to her, his voice a low growl. He has no interest in her. His focus is absolute. You are the flaw. You are the problem to be solved. Eliza doesn't need to be told twice. She's already backing toward the door, her face a mixture of triumph and something you recognize as genuine fear of what she's unleashed. She spared you once, in her own way. Now she has fed you to the wolf to save herself. The door creaks open and slams shut. She is gone. You are alone with him. The vast, dusty loft feels like a gladiatorial arena. The silence is thick, with the scent of betrayal and inevitable violence. There's nowhere left to run, Caleb says. It's not a threat. It's a closing statement. You'd make a deal with a snake like her? You ask, your voice dangerously quiet. The hurt is there, a cold shard of ice in your chest, but you wall it away. Emotion is a liability. To see justice done, he replies, taking a step forward. To get this back? He gestures with the coin pouch. Now it's just you and me. Quote, the thought of fighting him here, of the chaos and the watch descending, is repellent. You need to control the terms of engagement. You give him a look that is part challenge, part resignation, and then you turn and sprint for the far side of the loft. Not for an exit, but for a massive window overlooking the harbor. It's boarded up, but the wood is rotten. You don't hesitate. You launch yourself through it. Wood splinters, glass shatters, and for a heart-stopping second, you are airborne. You land hard on the steep, tiled roof of the building below, tucking and rolling to absorb the impact. Shouts erupt from the market below as people point up at you. You've traded the trap for the spectacle. You scramble across the rooftops, a desperate, high-stakes race against the dawn. Behind you, you hear the crash as Caleb follows, his pursuit as certain as the rising sun. You lead him away from the city's heart, toward the cliffs and the sea, leaping across alleys, sliding down weathered shingles. You are heading for a place you know, a place of endings, a hidden cove, accessible only by a treacherous cliffside path, where the waves crash against black volcanic rock. A place where a fight can have a definitive conclusion. By the time you reach the cliff path, the sky has turned a bruised purple. A storm is rolling in from the sea, the wind whipping your hair across your face and tasting of salt and rain. You scramble down the rocks, your boots finding familiar holds. You reach the black sand of the cove just as the first fat drops of rain begin to fall. The tide is coming in, the waves growing larger, angrier. Their roar, a fitting soundtrack for what is to come. You turn, drawing your blade. It feels like an extension of your arm, a cold, familiar comfort. Caleb appears at the top of the path, a tall, dark silhouette against the turbulent sky. He descends with a steady, methodical pace, his own blade, a heavy navy cutlass, already in his hand. The coin pouch is now tucked securely in his belt. He stops 20 feet from you, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead, his pale eyes burning with righteous fire. The wind howls around you, snatching words away. "This ends now!" he yells over the thunder of the surf. "It ended when you made a deal with a liar." You shout back, "She was a means to an end. To get to you." Quote, he charges. There is no more talk. There is only the storm, the waves, and the shriek of steel. His attack is a powerful, straightforward lunge. He is stronger than you, his cutlass a heavy, brutal weapon. You don't meet it head-on. You flow around it, your lighter blade a silver blur deflecting the blow, redirecting his momentum. You are water, he is stone. The fight is a deadly dance on the wet sand. He presses his attack, a relentless series of powerful chops and sweeping arcs designed to batter through your guard. You give ground, letting the sand and the slick rocks be your allies, forcing him to adjust his footing constantly. The rain comes down harder, blurring the world into a maelstrom of gray and black. A wave crashes near your feet, soaking you to the knees, trying to drag you down. You use the spray as a screen, darting in to land a shallow cut on his sword arm. He grunts in pain, his perfectionist's mask cracking with fury. He redoubles his assault, his movements becoming more ferocious, less disciplined. He is letting his anger fight for him. A mistake. He corners you against a towering spire of black rock. His cutlass comes down in a whistling arc, meant to cleave you in two. You raise your blade to parry, the impact jarring your entire arm, the sound of the steel screaming over the wind. He is too strong. You feel your footing slip on the wet rock beneath you. He sees his chance, the final, perfect blow. He disengages for a fraction of a second to reset his grip, to put all his weight and conviction into the finishing stroke. It's the opening you have been patiently waiting for. As his blade begins its descent, you don't try to block. You drop. You let your legs collapse under you, falling backward into the surging surf. The icy shock of the water takes your breath away. His cutlass whistles through the empty space where your head just was, embedding itself deep in the rock spire with a deafening clang. For a single vital moment, he is overextended, his weapon stuck, his body off balance. You erupt from the water, like a creature of the sea itself, a vengeful spirit of the storm. Your blade, slick with rain and salt water, comes up in a blindingly fast upward thrust. It slides between his ribs with surgical precision. A look of profound, honest surprise crosses his face. The fire in his eyes sputters, replaced by a confused hurt. He stumbles back, pulling his cutlass free from the rock with a wrench of his shoulders. He looks down at the spreading crimson stain on his shirt, then back at you. He doesn't fall. The discipline that has driven him his entire life holds him upright. He takes a shaky step, then another, his cutlass falling from his numb fingers to clatter on the rocks. He sinks to his knees in the churning foam, the rain washing the blood from his wound into the sea. You stand over him, your blade dripping, your chest heaving. The storm rages, the sea boils, but in the space between you, there is a sudden, terrible calm. He tried to impose his perfect, ordered justice on a chaotic world, and the chaos simply swallowed him whole. You reach down and pull the pouch of coins from his belt. The weight is a familiar sin in your hand. You look down at the kneeling man, a dying statue of principle. You could end it. A final, clean cut. It would be the professional thing to do. But looking at him, you see only a man who was too honest for the world he lived in. Killing him now would be an execution, not a victory. You turn your back on him and walk away, leaving him to the judgment of the storm and the tide. The money is yours. Your passage is paid for. But the betrayal of Eliza Vane is a fresh wound, a debt that, unlike hers, has not been cleared. As you climb the cliff path, the fury of the storm at your back, you know one thing with absolute certainty. You will find her, and you will collect. The climb back up the cliff face is a punishing ascent, each handhold a small, sharp victory against the slick, weeping rock. The wind tears at you, trying to peel you from the cliff and cast you back into the churning sea that has already claimed Caleb Steele, or will soon. You don't look back. Looking back is a luxury for those with a clear path ahead. Your path has never been more tangled. The pouch of coins is a leaden weight at your hip, its contents feeling both infinitely valuable and utterly worthless. You reach the top, gasping, the rain slowing to a miserable drizzle. The world is washed in the pre-dawn shades of slate and bruised lavender. The city is a smudge of weak light in the distance, a place that no longer offers any sanctuary. You cannot go back to the sail loft, nor the serpent's coil, nor any other familiar shadow. You have become too visible, a ghost caught in the light. You need a place of true solitude, a place of endings. Your feet carry you on instinct, away from the port and toward the city's overgrown edge, where the jungle begins its slow, inexorable reclamation. There, nestled amongst strangler figs and ancient banyans, lies the old parish church, abandoned a generation ago when the ground proved too marshy for its foundations. Its bell tower, listing like a sinking ship, is your destination. You pry open the rotted door at its base and slip inside, the darkness closing around you like a shroud. The only sound is the drip of water and the scuttling of unseen things. It is perfect. You climb the winding stone steps, your wet boots silent, until you reach the belfry. The great bronze bell was taken for scrap decades ago, leaving a cavernous space open to the sky, crisscrossed by rotting timbers. Here, with the whole of the storm-washed city spread below you, you finally allow yourself to stop. You sink down onto a low stone ledge, your back against the cold wall, and pull the pouch from your belt. The leather is supple and dark, the stitching too fine for a common coin purse. It's the work of a perfectionist, Tom Morgan. You work the drawstring loose and pour the contents into your palm. A cascade of silver and copper coins, their faces worn smooth with commerce. The count is, you are certain, exact. But that's not all. Your fingers brush against something else, something stiff and slick tucked into the pouch's lining. You pull it free. It's a small, tightly rolled cylinder of oilskin sealed with a dot of black wax. This was not part of the deal. This is something extra. A message. A mistake. Or a warning. With trembling, cold, numbed fingers, you break the seal and unroll the small document. It's not a letter. It's a ledger page, written in a cramped, meticulous hand. Tom's hand. Your breath catches in your throat. It's a list of names. At the top, you see Sea Serpent Cargo Manifest. Below it, alongside notations for sugar and rum, are other entries. Crates of Navy-issue muskets, barrels of black powder. Below that, a list of payments received. The names beside the sums of money make the blood freeze in your veins. Magistrate Abernathy, Harbor Master Graves, Commander Price, the second in command of the entire Royal Navy garrison on this island. It all clicks into place with the sickening finality of a prison door slamming shut. The stolen sugar wasn't the transaction. It was the delivery system. A small, dirty deal to cover a much larger, treasonous one. You were the final, unwitting piece of the puzzle. The deniable courier, the perfect scapegoat if anything went wrong. And Caleb Steele, he wasn't just a principled fool stumbling into your path. He was hunting them. He knew. His pursuit wasn't about a handful of coins. It was about the weapons that could arm a mutiny, or start a war with the Spanish, or worse. Eliza, desperate for her pardon, hadn't just sold you out for a bag of silver. She had delivered the one person investigating the conspiracy directly to its final courier. She didn't just clear her own slate. She helped them bury their secrets. The weight of the small piece of paper in your hand is heavier than any blade you have ever carried. It's the weight of an entire city's fate. The weight of secrets you were never meant to know. You look out from the belfry over the rooftops of the sleeping port. Down there, powerful men are resting easy, believing their treason is secure. Out there, somewhere, Eliza Vane is celebrating her freedom, a freedom bought with your life. And in a black sand cove, a man died for trying to bring this all into the light. The rain has stopped. The air is clean and cold. A new day is breaking, and with it comes a choice. A crossroads that stretches out before you, each path leading to a different kind of damnation. Your first instinct, the assassin's instinct, is the simplest. Survival. You could burn the ledger page right here, watch the names of powerful men turn to ash, and float away on the morning breeze. You could take the coin, find Eliza's fishing trawler, or any other vessel, and disappear. You would be free, wealthy, and alive. You would leave this island of liars and zealots to its own self-destruction. This is the professional path. The one that has kept you alive this long. You close your eyes and picture it. The feel of a ship's deck beneath your feet. The endless blue of the horizon. A life where this night is nothing but a bad memory. But the image feels hollow. The face of Caleb Steele, his eyes wide with honest surprise as your blade found him, intrudes. There's a line between survival and preying on your own. His words. Was running away not a form of preying on them all, by leaving them to the wolves whose names you now held? The second path is the one of the righteous fool, the path Caleb tried to walk. You could take this evidence to the authorities. But which ones? The men on this list are the authorities. Walking into the magistrate's office with this paper would be suicide. You might find one honest man, one captain or official, not yet corrupted. But how would you know? It would be a blind leap of faith, and faith is a language you do not speak. To reveal this truth would be to light a fire that would consume everything, including you. It is the path of the martyr, and you are no martyr, you are a survivor. You stare at the paper again, the neat columns, the damning names. Abernathy. Graves. Price. You traced the letters of their names with your finger. They thought you were a tool, a pawn, to be moved and then sacrificed. They underestimated you. They saw a quiet, introverted woman, a killer for hire concerned only with her next contract. They didn't see the patience, the precision, the part of you that understands how systems work, how they can be broken. And there, in the cold air of the belfry, the third path illuminates itself. It is not the path of the coward, nor the path of the fool. It is the path of the predator. You cannot run from this knowledge, and you cannot give it away, but you can use it. This ledger is not just evidence, it is power, it is leverage. It is a blade to be held at the throats of the most powerful men in the city. To expose them would be messy and loud. To control them from the shadows. That is an art form. That is your language. The hunt for Eliza Vane is no longer simple revenge for a personal betrayal. She is your way in. She is the first thread. You need to find her, not just to make her pay, but to understand her role, to learn how deep the conspiracy goes, who else is involved. She is the key, just as she said, but she unlocks a door to a game far more dangerous than she could ever comprehend. A game you will now control. Your decision solidifies, hardening your resolve into something cold and sharp. You carefully fold the oilskin page and tuck it into a hidden seam in your boot. It will not be burned, it will be wielded. You look at the coins still scattered on the ledge. They are no longer just the price of passage away from this life. They are the seed money for a new one. The capital for a war fought not with muskets and cannons, but with whispers and secrets. The sun finally breaks over the horizon, spilling golden light across the harbor. The city wakes up below, blissfully ignorant. You rise to your feet, every trace of exhaustion burned away by this new, chilling purpose. You are no longer Camille Marchand, the assassin running from her past. You are a ghost with a list of names. The weight of the secret is immense, but you will not let it crush you. You will make it your shield and your sword. You turn from the belfry and descend back into the city's shadows, a player in a game you were never meant to join, a game you now intend to win. The stone steps of the bell tower are cold and treacherous in their descent, each one a step down from the cold clarity of your newfound purpose and back into the mire of the city. As you emerge into the alley, the morning sun, now fully risen, feels like an accusation. The air, washed clean by the storm, carries the mundane smells of baking bread and charcoal fires, a world moving on, oblivious to the secret war you have just declared. The righteous fury that solidified your resolve in the belfry begins to cool, leaving behind the cold, hard calculus of survival. You are one woman, with a pouch of silver and a single dangerous piece of paper. The men on that list are not just names, they are institutions, each with a small army of guards, informants, and loyalists at his command. You move through the waking streets, a wraith in the morning light. You pull your hood lower, your face a mask of anonymity. Every guard you pass, every well-dressed merchant, feels like a potential enemy. The path of the predator, so clear and righteous from 100 feet up, seems like a fool's errand down here on the ground. The weight of your decision presses on you. You could still run. The fishing trawler Eliza mentioned, the one bound for the southern isles, is likely still in port. You have the coin. You could buy your passage, melt away, and let this island choke on its own corruption. The thought is a siren's song, a promise of warm sun and a life where the names Abernathy, Graves, and Price are meaningless sounds. A life where you don't have to see Caleb Steele's face every time you close your eyes. This choice, this crossroads, is a physical thing, a knot tightening in your gut. Caleb's path, the path of justice, led to a blade in the ribs and a grave in the sea. Eliza's path, the path of self-preservation, led to a pardon and freedom. You chose a third way, a synthesis of the two. But now it feels like you've simply chosen the risks of both, with the rewards of neither. To stay is to gamble your life on the hope that you are smarter, faster, and crueler than the most powerful men in the city. To leave is to accept that you are not. Your feet, moving without conscious direction, carry you toward the oldest part of the port, a tangle of sagging docks and salt-bleached warehouses that even the rats seem to be abandoning. This is a place of endings, much like the graveyard, but of a different sort. Not of men, but of ventures, failed shipping companies, forgotten cargo, abandoned dreams. It is here, in the shadow of a derelict dry dock, that you hear the stories. A group of old sailors, their faces like cracked leather, are mending a net and sharing a bottle, their voices carrying on the damp air. They are talking about treasure, they are talking about Blackbeard. You pause in the deep shadow of a stack of rotting barrels, listening. It's a story you've heard a dozen times in a dozen ports, always with different details. Blackbeard's treasure. A king's ransom buried somewhere on a deserted quay. But this old sailor, a man with a milky blind eye and a voice like stones grinding together, is telling it differently. It ain't the gold that was the genius of it, he rasps, spitting a stream of brown tobacco juice into the water. Any fool pirate can bury gold. Old Teach, he was different. He knew a secret ain't a secret if only one man knows it. That's a liability. But a secret everyone thinks they know a piece of? That's a weapon. Quote. Another sailor scoffs. What are you on about, Silas? He killed the men who helped him bury it. Everyone knows that. Aye, that's the story he wanted told, Silas says, his one good eye gleaming with the fervor of a true believer. But think on it. He takes a dozen of his most trusted men to the island. He has them dig the pit. They put the chests in. Then, the legend says, he shoots 'em all and buries 'em with the loot. But what if that ain't the whole of it? What if he only killed some of them? What if he let 2 or 3 live? Men he knew were rivals. Men he knew hated each other. He lets them escape, each one thinking they're the sole survivor, the sole keeper of the secret. The old man leans forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Now each of those men has a piece of the map. But not the whole map. Each one needs the others to find the treasure. But they can't trust each other, can they? They'll spend the rest of their days watching each other, plotting against each other, too afraid to make a move, too greedy to give up the secret. And Teach? He sits back on his ship, safe and sound. His treasure ain't protected by a lock and key. It's protected by the greed and paranoia of the very men who would steal it. His legacy ain't the gold. It's the cage he built around it. Quote, "The old sailor's words strike you like a physical blow. You lean against the barrels, the rough wood digging into your back, your breath catching in your throat. A cage. A cage built of greed and paranoia. The ledger page in your boot feels like it's burning through the leather." Tom Morgan. Your cousin. He didn't just give you the ledger by mistake. He is a perfectionist. He makes no mistakes. He put it in the pouch for you to find. He armed you. Why? Was he trying to protect himself? Or was he, like Blackbeard, setting his rivals against each other? Abernathy, Graves, Price, and now you. Another player in the game, another keeper of the secret, bound to the others by mutual distrust. You see it now with blinding clarity. The choice was never between running and fighting for justice. That was a false dichotomy, the thinking of a pawn. Caleb fought for justice and died. Eliza ran for freedom, and is now, you realize, just as trapped as anyone, forever looking over her shoulder, a piece of the conspiracy that could be silenced at any time. True freedom, the kind Blackbeard understood, is not escape. It is control. The freedom to never have to look over your shoulder again, because you are the thing in the shadows everyone else fears. The path of the martyr is for fools. The path of the coward is for the short-sighted. Blackbeard's legacy, the pirate's legacy, is the third path, the one you saw from the belfry, the path of the predator. You will not expose the conspiracy, you will own it. You will not run from these men, you will leash them. You will take the cage Tom Morgan has placed you in, and you will become its keeper. The knot in your gut dissolves, replaced by a cold, hard certainty. You push yourself away from the barrels, your purpose reforged, harder and sharper than before. You turn your back on the old sailors and their stories, leaving them to their legends. You are going to create your own. You walk with a new stride, no longer a ghost hiding from the light, but a hunter assessing her territory. The first step is no longer a question. You cannot control a conspiracy without understanding all its pieces. Abernathy, Graves, and Price are the monoliths, too large to approach directly. Tom Morgan is the architect, too meticulous to have made a careless move. That leaves the loose threads, the panicked, desperate pieces of the puzzle. That leaves Eliza Vane. She thought she bought her freedom. You will teach her what it truly costs. You head for the fish market, not to hide this time, but to gather information. The coin pouch feels different now, at your belt. It is no longer a weight, but a tool. You find a stall selling fishing supplies and approach the merchant, a woman whose face is a roadmap of hard-won wrinkles. "I need to find passage," you say, your voice low and even. "Quiet passage. There was a trawler bound for the Southern Isles this morning. Did it sail?" Quote. The woman eyes you, her gaze shrewd. "The sea foam? Aye, it sailed with the high tide an hour ago." Quote. An hour. Eliza is gone. A lesser person might feel despair. You feel only a sharpening of focus. "Do you know its first port of call?" you ask, letting a silver coin glint in your palm. Her eyes flick to the coin, and a flicker of greed wars with her caution. "Tortuga," she says, her voice barely a whisper as her fingers close around the silver. Always Tortuga first. Tortuga, a city of pirates, smugglers, and thieves. A sanctuary for men and women exactly like Eliza. A place where a person can disappear completely. A place where a hunter like you can thrive. You give the woman a curt nod and turn away, the name echoing in your mind. The hunt is on. You look out at the harbor, at the ships bobbing on the waves, their masts a forest of possibility. The path of redemption is a lie. But survival, absolute and undeniable, is a prize worth fighting for. And you will not just survive. You will reign. Tortuga. The name is a promise and a threat. A haven for the hunted, a hunting ground for the hunter. To get there, you need more than coin and a ship. You need an edge. The men on your list have the city in their pocket, but their city is new, built on the rubble and ruin of what came before. Your edge lies in the ghosts, in the foundations they have forgotten. You turn away from the bustling harbor and walk toward the part of Port Royal that the living have abandoned. The quake of '92 did not just sink 2/3 of the city. It fractured what remained, leaving a jagged scar between the rebuilt port and the drowned ruins. This is the dead city, a skeletal twin left to rot in the sun. The air here is different. The scent of commerce replaced by the primal smell of low tide, rotting timbers, and the dust of forgotten lives. The streets are broken teeth. Cobblestones give way to sucking mud, and then disappear entirely into the green, scummy water of the bay. Buildings lean against each other in a permanent, drunken embrace, their facades ripped away to expose rooms like open wounds. A tavern sign, miraculously intact, creaks on rusty hinges, advertising ale for phantoms. This is a place where the past has refused to be buried, and it is here you will find your weapons. You move with a predator's quiet purpose. You are looking for the old administration hall, where the city's records were kept before the earth buckled. You know from island lore that it was one of the few stone structures on the spit, and did not collapse entirely, but was instead tilted and half swallowed by the rising ground. You find it by the great stone eagle, now lying on its side in a field of weeds, one granite eye staring accusingly at the sky. The main entrance is a mess of collapsed masonry and tangled roots, impassable. But you are an assassin. You do not use the front door. You circle the structure, your hand trailing along the damp, mossy stone. Your fingers, trained to find the subtle flaw in any defense, discover it. A cellar grate, warped but not broken, hidden beneath a curtain of hanging vines. It groans in protest as you pry it open. The darkness within smells of cold stone and something else, something that feels like held breath. You drop into the cellar, landing silently on a floor slick with decades of damp. The air is unnaturally cold, a stark contrast to the humid day outside. It's a silence so profound it has a weight, pressing in on you. You light a small oil lamp, its flame a tiny, brave star in the oppressive gloom. The cellar is a crypt of forgotten bureaucracy. Casks of ink have split open, leaving black frozen rivers on the stone floor. Rotting shelves sag with the weight of moldering ledgers, their pages fused into solid bricks of paper. It seems a dead end. But as you move deeper, a flicker of movement in the lamplight catches your eye. It's not a rat. It is a shimmer in the air, a distortion like heat haze rising from a sun-baked road. The cold intensifies. You hold your breath, your hand instinctively going to your blade. This is not a human threat. This is the city's memory. Disturbed by your intrusion, the shimmering air coalesces. It forms the shape of a man, tall and imperious, dressed in the fine but severe coat of a colonial official. He is translucent, a phantom of smoke and memory, pacing back and forth in a space that no longer exists. You recognize the set of his jaw, the rigid posture. It's the same righteous conviction you saw in Caleb Steele. You are watching a ghost, an echo of a man who tried to tame this city with laws and principles. As you watch, other, murkier phantoms flicker into existence around him. Sycophants, whispering lies in his ear. A portly merchant offering a bribe, which the official angrily rejects. The official turns his back to draft a new ordinance, his focus absolute. And in that moment, the sycophants and the merchant exchange a look of shared conspiracy. They move as one, their ghostly forms surrounding him. He turns, a look of profound, honest surprise on his face, as he realizes his own puritanical zeal was the wall they used to corner him. The vision dissolves, leaving behind only a lingering chill and the lesson. Righteousness without cunning is a gilded cage. You see Caleb's face kneeling in the surf, and understand his failure was a story told here long before. You press on, deeper into the ruins of the building. You find a collapsed stairwell, now a treacherous slope of rubble, and climb to what must have been the main floor. Here, another pocket of cold awaits. Another memory. This time, the ghost is a woman. She is beautiful, draped in silks, her laughter like the chime of a fallen chandelier. She stands in the center of a spectral ballroom, a stolen necklace glittering at her throat. Men orbit her like moths. You see her lift a purse from one, a signet ring from another, her movements a fluid dance of deception. She is Eliza Vane, or a spirit cut from the same cloth. The scene shifts. The party is over. The woman is alone, counting her spoils. Then, the ghostly figures of two guards appear in the doorway. She offers them a dazzling smile, tries to spin a web of lies and flirtation. But their eyes are cold. Her usefulness to whoever sent them is over. The smile falters. The fear you saw in Eliza's eyes as she fled the sail loft is mirrored perfectly on this phantom's face. The vision fades. The lesson is just as clear. A life built on betraying others is a life spent waiting to be betrayed. Freedom is not a prize you can steal. You feel a strange kinship with these echoes. The zealot, the grifter, they are the two poles you are navigating between. Their mistakes are a map, showing you the reefs and sandbars on which you might founder. But where, then, is the path through? You find your answer in the magistrate's own office. The room is remarkably preserved, the heavy oak desk and high-backed chair tilted at a nauseating angle but intact. The air here is not cold. It is calm, calculating, and patient. The ghost that resides here is different. He is a quiet man, unassuming with the soft hands of a scholar. He is not the magistrate himself, but perhaps his clerk or his advisor. You watch as his echo plays out a scene of quiet triumph. Two spectral merchants, bitter rivals, are brought before him. They shout, they accuse, they present their cases with blustering fury. The quiet ghost listens patiently. He doesn't rule, he doesn't pass judgment, he simply asks a question. A single surgical question directed at the first merchant about a discrepancy in his shipping manifests. A discrepancy that has nothing to do with the current argument, but the seed of fear is planted. He then turns to the second merchant and asks an equally innocuous question about a debt owed to a third party. He dismisses them both. The phantoms fade, but the lesson hangs in the air, as clear as a struck bell. The quiet man did not solve their problem. He created a new one for each of them. He gave each man a secret to worry about, a vulnerability the other did not know. He didn't take sides. He took control. He bound them not with laws, but with the fear of exposure. He built a cage of their own making. It is the wisdom of Blackbeard, the silent, patient power of the predator. You stand in the tilting room, the dust of a century settling around you, and you understand. You are not here to be a judge or a thief. You are here to be a keeper of secrets. Their secrets. Your lamplight falls upon a section of the wall where the plaster has crumbled away, revealing a cavity behind it. Inside is a long, thin metal tube, sealed with wax. Not a grand treasure, but something hidden with purpose. You pry it open. Inside is a tightly rolled piece of vellum. It's a map. Not of a treasure island, but of the city itself, the Port Royal that existed before the quake. It details the original property lines, the secret tunnels built by smugglers, the private cisterns, and, marked with a small, precise X, is the location of the original Abernathy family vault, a place now buried beneath 20 feet of earth and the foundations of the new fish market. You look at the map, then at the ledger page you pull from your boot. The names on the page are the city's present. The lines on the map are its past. You now hold both. You can see the foundations of their power, the secret histories and forgotten sins on which their fortunes are built. You extinguish your lamp and make your way out of the ruins, emerging from the cellar into the late afternoon sun. The dead city is behind you, its ghosts laid to rest, their lessons etched into your soul. You are no longer just the woman who survived the storm. You are the woman who has learned the wisdom of the drowned. Your own legacy is no longer a question mark. It will not be a story of martyrdom or of a desperate flight to freedom. It will be a quiet legend, whispered in the shadows. The story of the woman who owned Port Royal and never had to fire a shot. The hunt for Eliza Vane is still the first step, but now you are not just hunting a traitor. You are following the first thread of a tapestry you intend to weave yourself. Tortuga can wait. Eliza is a symptom, not the disease. Chasing her across the Caribbean would be to react, to follow a trail laid by others. It is the path of the hound, not the hunter. The wisdom of the dead city, of Blackbeard's cage and the quiet clerk's whispered power, has settled deep in your bones. True control lies at the source. It lies with the architect. It lies with your cousin, the perfectionist rope maker, Tom Morgan. He did not make a mistake, he made a move. Now, it is your turn. You bypass the harbor entirely, turning your back on the ships and their false promises of escape. Your steps are now measured, deliberate, carrying you toward the northern edge of the rebuilt city, where the artisans and craftsmen have their shops. The smell of sawdust and tanning leather replaces the brine of the sea. It is a neighborhood of quiet, meticulous work, a world away from the brawling chaos of the docks. His workshop is exactly as you imagined it, unassuming from the outside, with a simple, unpainted sign bearing his name. The wide, double doors are open to the afternoon breeze, and the moment you step across the threshold, the scent of him, of his trade, envelops you. It's the clean, sharp smell of hemp and sisal, the smoky, medicinal bite of tar, and the underlying aroma of oiled wood. The space is a cathedral of order. Ropes of every thickness hang in perfect, concentric coils from the high rafters. Spools of twine are arranged by color and weight on immaculate shelves. On a long workbench that runs the length of the wall, tools are laid out not merely for function, but with an artist's sense of geometric precision. There are no loose ends here. Everything is tied off, secured, and in its place. It is the sanctum of a man who believes in control. He is at the far end of the workshop, his back to you, working a complex splice into a thick hawser line. He doesn't turn as you enter. He doesn't have to. A man this attuned to the tensions in his ropes would have felt the shift in the air the moment your shadow fell across his floor. His movements are economical, his hands a blur of practiced efficiency. He finishes the splice, tucks the final strand with a sharp tug, and only then does he slowly turn to face you. His expression is not one of surprise or fear or even welcome. It is one of quiet expectation. "I wondered when you would stop running," he says, his voice the same dry rasp you remember from the graveyard. He wipes his tar-stained hands on a clean cloth. "Tea?" "No," you say. Your voice is a low murmur in the cavernous space. You walk toward him, your boots making no sound on the sawdust-strewn floor. You stop at the workbench, the length of polished wood, a barrier between you. Without breaking eye contact, you reach into your boot and produce the oilskin pouch. You unroll it and place the ledger page on the bench. The damning list of names and numbers seems obscenely loud in the quiet workshop. He glances down at it, a flicker of something, not satisfaction, but confirmation, in his eyes. "A dangerous piece of paper to be carrying around," he observes. "You put it there," you state. It is not a question. "I did," he concedes. He leans back against a stack of coiled rope, crossing his arms. He looks less like a common fence, and more like a professor about to begin a lecture. Consider it a final test, or perhaps an invitation. Most would have burned it. The foolishly righteous, like your friend Steele, would have taken it to the authorities and been hanged for their trouble. A coward would have used it to flee. You did none of those things. You kept it. You understood its weight. You understood it was a key. A key to a cage, you counter, your gaze unwavering. Abernathy, Graves, Price. You armed them. I was your delivery service. The sugar and rum were just the wrapping on a box of treason. Quote. A thin smile touches his lips. Treason? He chuckles, a dry, rustling sound. My dear cousin, you think far too small. Treason implies loyalty to something. Do you think Magistrate Abernathy is loyal to the crown? Or Commander Price? They are loyal to their purses, to their appetites. England, Spain, France. They are just competing markets. Fading brands. The future does not belong to nations. It belongs to networks. It belongs to us. He gestures around the workshop, at the coils of rope that seem to bind the very building together. The serpent's coil is not a tavern, Camille. It's the world we are building. The full, terrifying scope of it washes over you. This isn't about a few corrupt officials skimming off military supplies in a backwater port. This is an enterprise. A shadow government built on the principles of commerce, not conquest. Tortuga, you breathe, the name tasting of ash. Havana, London. All of them, he confirms, his eyes gleaming with the passion of a zealot. And more. We are a company, with shareholders and regional managers. We divert French cannon to Spanish privateers fighting the English, and then sell English intelligence to the French to help them recover the guns. We trade in sugar, rum, weapons, information, lives. We create instability, and from that instability, we create profit. We are the tide that lifts all ships, and we are the storm that sinks them. We answer to no king, because we are making ourselves kings. Quote, "He is the quiet man from the ghost-haunted ruins, the keeper of secrets, the architect of the cage, and you are standing in the center of his web." Why me, you ask, the question feeling small and naive in the face of his revelation. Why give me the key? Because the company has grown, he says, his voice dropping, becoming more intimate. And it has weaknesses. Men like Abernathy are greedy, but they are clumsy. Men like Price are powerful, but they are predictable. I am an architect, not a soldier. We have need of a special kind of partner, someone who moves in the shadows. Someone who understands that a quiet death can be more valuable than a loud treaty. Someone with no allegiances, no family, no history that can be used against them. He looks at you, his gaze intense, analytical. I have been watching you for a long time, Cammy, since you first arrived on this island. I saw your patience, your skill. I saw how you handled the wharf rats in the cistern. Eliza's distraction was flashy, but your solution was final. It was perfect. Caleb, you realize, was the final piece of the test. An honest, relentless man. A force of pure order. Tom unleashed him on you to see what would happen when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. Your victory wasn't just survival, it was a job interview, and you had passed with honors. I need someone I can trust to prune the branches, he continues, to be the company's blade, to handle problems that cannot be solved with coin, to be my partner in this, to help me rule. Quote, he is offering you the world, not the world of gilded palaces and thrones, but the real world, the one that operates on levers of fear and greed pulled from the shadows. It is everything the ghosts of the dead city warned you against, and everything they taught you to desire. The righteous path of the zealot, the desperate path of the grifter, or the patient, controlling path of the predator. He is offering you the predator's throne. You look at him, this unassuming man, in his quiet workshop. He is not a king. He is a spider, and he is offering you a place in his web, to be his partner. But you know, with the chilling certainty of a survivor, that a spider's web has only one master. You could kill him now. Here, one clean, quiet motion. Your blade is a thought away. With him gone, the head of the serpent would be severed. But the body, this vast international company he has built, would remain. It would thrash and twist, and a dozen lesser men would fight to take his place. It would be chaos. It would be an ending, but not a solution. You will not be his blade. You will not be his partner. You will not be his equal. You will be his replacement. You let the silence stretch, letting him savor what he believes is his victory. Then you push yourself away from the workbench and take a step closer to him, into his personal space. You pick up the ledger page, the paper crinkling softly. You fold it once, with meticulous care. You don't accept his offer. You don't refuse it. You look him in the eye, your gaze is cold and calm as the deep ocean, and you issue your first command. The company is flawed, you state, your voice cutting through the silence. Its security is compromised. Eliza Vane was a liability you allowed to run free. She knows about the ledger, she knows about me, she is a loose end. You pause, letting the implicit criticism of his perfection hang in the air. Before we discuss my role, you will provide me with a ship, crew, and letters of credit. I am going to Tortuga. I will tie off that loose end myself. A flicker of surprise crosses his face, quickly masked. He expected you to be overwhelmed, grateful, perhaps even afraid. He did not expect you to immediately seize control, to identify a flaw in his grand design, and demand the resources to correct it. He did not expect you to give him an order. The final battle has not been avoided. It has just begun. It will not be a fight of swords on a rainy beach, but a war of wills in the shadows of the world. He built the cage. He handed you the key. He does not yet realize you have just locked the door from the inside, with him still in it. He stares at you for a long moment, the architect examining a new, unexpected variable in his equation. Then, a slow, genuine smile spreads across his face. It is a look of profound and terrifying respect. "Of course," Tom Morgan says, "whatever you need." His words hang in the silent, tar-scented air. A concession. A contract. But you know it is neither. It is the sound of one predator acknowledging another. You give him a single, slow nod, a gesture of finality, and turn your back on him, walking toward the wide-open doors and the afternoon light. You do not need to look back to know he is watching, his mind already calculating, reweaving the strands of his web to accommodate your new, disruptive weight. He does not make you wait. A man like Tom Morgan understands that momentum, once seized, is a weapon in itself. Before you have even reached the edge of the artisan's district, a youth detaches himself from a doorway. He is thin, nondescript, and moves with a quiet efficiency that marks him as one of Tom's own. He doesn't speak, merely falls into step a few paces behind you, and silent escort, a shadow you did not request but must now accept. He is the first link in your new chain. He leads you to a different section of the harbor, far from the fishing trawlers and merchant cogs. Here, the ships are sleeker, faster, built for purposes other than hauling timber or sugar. They are frigates and sloops of war, their lines lean and hungry. Your escort gestures toward one, a brigantine named the Whisper. Her hull is painted a deep, lusterless black that seems to drink the sunlight. She flies no colors. Her decks are clean, her rigging taut and perfect. She is a blade honed for a single purpose, to move unseen and unheard. She is beautiful, and she is a cage. The crew are already making preparations for departure. They move with a quiet, disciplined competence that is unnervingly familiar. It's the economy of motion you saw in Caleb Steele, but stripped of all righteous conviction. This is the cold professionalism of the company. They are Tom's men. You see it in the way they watch you come aboard, their eyes missing nothing, their expressions neutral masks. You are their commander for this voyage, but they are your wardens. Their loyalty is not to you, but to the architect who placed you here. This is the first negative consequence, the bitter taste of the reckoning. You demanded a ship and crew. He has given you a gilded prison and a company of spies. The man who greets you at the gangplank introduces himself as Captain Elias Thorne. He is older than the rest, his face a web of fine lines, his eyes the color of a winter sky. He is polite, deferential, but there is a hardness in his gaze that tells you he is no mere captain for hire. He is one of them, a manager. "Your cabin is prepared, Madame Marchand," he says, his voice a low rumble. "We sail within the hour. Your destination is our command." You follow him below decks. The ship is as meticulously ordered inside as it is out. The captain's cabin is spacious, appointed with charts, a heavy oak desk, and a bed built into the wall. It's more luxurious than any place you have ever willingly slept. A bottle of what looks to be expensive brandy and 2 crystal glasses sit on the desk. An offering. A test. You ignore it. Through the stern-facing windows, you can see the receding skyline of Port Royal, the listing bell tower a crooked finger pointing at the sky. The sounds of the city begin to fade, replaced by the creak of timber, the snap of canvas, and the rhythmic chant of the sailors weighing anchor. The ship shudders slightly as she catches the wind, a living thing stirring from slumber. This is it, the moment of departure. The finality of it settles upon you, heavy as a shroud. Here, in the sudden solitude of the cabin, the choice you thought you had already made rises again, a ghost demanding its due. The path of the past, the assassin's path, is still open to you. It would be so simple. Thorne is just one man. The crew, though loyal to Tom, are mercenaries at heart. A swift, quiet reshuffling of command, a new course plotted for some forgotten corner of the world, and you could be free. You could take this fine, fast ship and simply vanish. You could spend the rest of your days as you have lived them until now, alone, self-sufficient, a ghost who leaves no trace. A survivor. You run a hand along the smooth, cool wood of the desk. To run would be to admit he has won. To admit that his cage is stronger than your will. It would be to accept that you are, and always will be, prey. You see Caleb's face again, his expression of shock as the world he believed in dissolved at the point of your blade. You see the phantom of the grifter in the dead city, her stolen jewels worthless, as she faced the consequences of a life lived on the run. You see Eliza, sailing for Tortuga, believing herself free, but now forever a pawn in a game she cannot comprehend. a loose end waiting to be tied. Running is not freedom. It is merely a delay of the inevitable. Your gaze falls upon the tools of your new trade, which you lay out on the desk. The ledger page, its neat columns a declaration of war. The map of the drowned city, its ink a testament to the fact that all power is built on forgotten foundations. These are not just secrets to be hidden or threats to be brandished. They are schematics. Blueprints for a hostile takeover. The old sailor's words echo in your mind. His treasure ain't protected by a lock and key. It's protected by the greed and paranoia of the very men who would steal it. Tom thinks he has made you a piece of his puzzle box, another rival to keep the others in check while he pulls the strings. He thinks he has put you in the cage. He does not understand the lesson you learned in the ruins of the old world. You do not run from a cage. You do not break it. You make it your own. Your decision solidifies, no longer a fiery resolve forged in a belfry, but a cold, hard certainty that settles into your bones like the winter ice. You are not a pawn, and you will not be a partner. You will be the sole proprietor. You unroll the map of the drowned city. The X marking the Abernathy vault is a small, precise wound on the page. The family's power, their wealth, was founded on something now lost to memory, buried under the city they now rule. You trace the lines of the old streets, your mind already working, seeing the levers, the pressure points. Then you place the ledger page beside it. The names Abernathy, Graves, Price are the pillars of the new city. But their foundations are here, on this map, in the mud and the ghosts. Your hunt for Eliza is no longer about revenge, or even about silencing a liability. She is your point of entry into the company's network in Tortuga. You will not simply remove her. You will dissect her. You will learn everything she knows, every contact, every safe house, every whispered transaction. You will peel back the layers of her life and take from her the one thing she truly values. Not her freedom, but her network. You will absorb her assets and make them your own. You will become the new ghost in Tortuga's machine. A soft knock comes at the door. "We've cleared the harbor, madam," Captain Thorne's voice calls. Course is set for Tortuga. You carefully roll the map and the ledger together, a single document containing the past and present of your new enterprise. You do not hide it. You place it in the center of the desk. A statement of intent. When Thorne or any of his men come in here, they will see it. They will see that you are not running from this knowledge. You are studying it. You are mastering it. Let them report that back to Tom. Let the architect know that his new piece is learning the layout of the board with terrifying speed. You walk to the stern windows. Port Royal is a thin, dark line on the horizon, shrinking with every passing moment. You feel no regret, no nostalgia. You are not leaving a home. You are leaving a conquered territory, the first of many. You have made your choice. You have embraced the new path, not as an assassin, not as an avenger, but as an architect of a new order, built upon the ruins of the old. The storm is over. The calm is here. And in the quiet, you can finally hear the sound of your own ambition, clear and sharp as a whetted blade. You turn your back on the receding shore and face the open sea. You face your future. And for the first time in a very long time, you are not running from anything. You are sailing toward it. The sea below your terrace is a sheet of dark silk, embroidered with the silver thread of the rising moon. The air is soft, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine and salt, a gentle perfume that has long since replaced the stench of mud and fear. The years have a way of smoothing the sharp edges of memory, like sea glass tumbled in the surf, but they never erase them entirely. They simply become part of you. Here, in this sanctuary you have built for yourself on an island that appears on no map, you can finally hold those memories up to the light and see them for what they are, the foundation stones of the woman you have become. It has been a long time since you were that woman in the graveyard, the quiet assassin whose world was shrinking with every step. You remember the damp chill of that place, the weight of the stolen sugar, the way the moonlight turned the coral headstones into a field of broken teeth. You remember the sheer animal terror of being seen, of being known by a man like Caleb Steele, his honest eyes. You can still see them, not in nightmares, but with a kind of distant, clinical pity. He was a stone trying to build a dam in a river. The river simply flowed around him and then over him. His death on that black sand beach, with the storm raging around you, was not the end of a man. It was the end of an idea. The idea that a single person's integrity could mean anything in a world built on compromise and deceit. His death was a baptism, washing away the last vestiges of the person you thought you were and leaving behind the cold, clear reality of what you had to become to survive. You do not mourn him, you simply understand him. He was a lesson, written in blood and seawater. And Eliza, you found her in Tortuga, of course. She was exactly where you knew she'd be, in the most opulent tavern, draped in silks she'd conned from a lovesick merchant captain, laughing that rich, careless laugh. She saw you across the crowded room, and for a single, beautiful moment, all the color drained from her face. She looked like one of the ghosts from the dead city. She expected a knife in a dark alley, a final, violent settlement of her debt. But you had learned a new language by then. Violence was a tool, not a solution. Death was messy. Control was clean. You didn't kill her, you ruined her. Quietly, systematically. You used the knowledge you had, the network Tom had unwittingly given you access to, and you dismantled her life piece by piece. You turned her contacts against her, exposed her cons, drained her resources. You left her with nothing but her pretty clothes, and the dawning horror that she was utterly alone, a pariah in the one city that had ever felt like home. And then, when she was at her most desperate, you made her an offer. A position. A new role, as your eyes and ears in a world she knew so well. She didn't die in Tortuga. She was reborn as your first and most loyal asset. A grifter whose greatest con is now convincing the world she still works for herself, all while serving as a glittering, captive jewel in the crown you were slowly building. She taught you the value of betrayal, and in return, you taught her the meaning of true servitude. Then there was Tom, your cousin, the architect, the perfectionist. Your war with him was never fought on a ship's deck or in a shadowy alley. It was a silent, patient siege that lasted 2 years. A game of chess played across oceans, with smugglers and governors as pawns. He thought he had created a partner, a blade, to wield. He never understood that from the moment you walked out of his workshop, you were no longer a piece in his game. You were a competing player, building your own board. You used the map of the drowned city to unearth the forgotten sins of his partners. You used the company's own networks to feed them whispers, doubts. You cultivated their paranoia, turning them against each other, just as the old sailor said Blackbeard had done. You made them see Tom not as their leader, but as their greatest liability. The end came not with a bang, but with a simple transfer of assets. A meeting in a London counting house where Abernathy and Price, their faces pale with fear of the exposure you represented, signed everything over to you. Tom was simply retired. You saw him one last time on the docks of that gray, smoky city. He was an old man, his hands no longer stained with tar, his perfectionist's energy gone, leaving only a brittle, hollow shell. He looked at you, and in his eyes you saw the dawning, terrible understanding of a master craftsman who has been undone by his own finest creation. You left him with enough coin for a quiet life, a final, ironic payment for the lessons he had taught you. That was the most perfect cruelty of all. You didn't kill him, you let him live, in a world he had created but no longer controlled. You let him watch you reign. And so you sit here, tonight, the Empress of Whispers, the queen of a silent, sprawling empire built on secrets and leverage. Your hands have not held a blade in years. They don't need to. Your weapon is a quill, signing orders that shift fortunes and topple regimes. Your peace is not the peace of the innocent. It is the peace of the unassailable, the absolute quiet that comes from knowing there is no one left to hunt you, because you are the apex predator. There are no more shadows to check. No more footsteps to listen for in the dark. The darkness is yours. You lean back in your chair, the wood cool against your skin. The moon is high now, and the sea is a placid mirror. A soft breeze stirs the palm fronds, a sound like a gentle sigh. The story of that desperate woman in the graveyard feels like it happened to someone else, in another lifetime. And perhaps it did. You have lived many lives. The quiet girl, the silent assassin, the hunted prey. And now, this. The final version of yourself. A woman at rest. The night is deep. The air is calm. The story is over. There is nothing left to run from. There is nothing left to fight. There is only the gentle rhythm of the waves, washing the shore, over and over again. It is time to let the current pull you into the deep, quiet dark. It is time to sleep. So close your eyes. Let the memories soften and fade. Like footprints on a wet sand beach at high tide, the world will still be there in the morning, turning on an axis of whispers you set in motion long ago. But for tonight, there is only this quiet, this calm. Rest now. Good night, pirate.